Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Heal with Grace podcast. We have Vanessa Blackstone back with us for the third time, second solo. And by the way, if you have not listened to her previous episode, I will link it below. Highly recommend. We talked about how to create safety in your nervous system. So I'm really excited to have you back. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be back. I was thinking that too. I'm like, this is the third time.
I
But we're
realized that
starting to
as I
feel
said
better.
that. Yeah.
I think we like each other.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're good. We're a good pair.
We are.
For people who have not heard you or are new to the podcast, can you give a little intro? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I have been in the work of pain reprocessing therapy for about 8 years now. I started off unintentionally. I kind of fell into this work, literally. I had a horrible final year of grad school with all of my different pain symptoms. I've had migraines since I was 11, and they grew from menstrual migraines to multiple migraines a month that would last 5 days or so. And they grew to more vestibular and like vertigo based and aura and made me super, super sick. And then I started getting hives when I would get really stressed out or hot. And then I had pelvic floor pain and IBS and neck pain that I thought was being caused by the migraines or vice versa. And so I was one of those people that just had like the whack-a-mole symptoms, like everything kind of going on and not really sure what to do about it. And I deferred on a PhD program because of all the symptoms, and I just needed a break. And I fell into this work and I got going on it professionally, but then started realizing it kind of fits personally. And once I realized a lot of the times when we were talking about clients, I was actually talking about myself. And I could relate to my clients more than I realized I could is when I started doing the work personally. So I consider myself recovered. I have extinction bursts every now and then. I started this work at the Pain Psychology Center that founded PRT, and I will say we're kind of like the gold standard practice for PRT. We started with a small team when I started, of us maybe, and now we have 46 providers, I think. And yeah, now I'm the executive director of the practice. I co-authored a workbook called the Pain Reprocessing Therapy Workbook that came out last year with my co-author Olivia Seneko, and we were on your podcast together as well. And yeah, now we're here. Now Olivia and I both have met you in person, which was so fun at our
Yeah.
little book event earlier this year in Boulder. And it's been a long journey of a lot of different things, but I'm here now and I'm stoked.
Yeah. Yeah. You've done such incredible work in the community. And I'm excited for today because I know that the way that you can speak about some of this work is really bringing in examples and metaphors that really help
Yeah.
people understand it. So
Yeah.
even if we were to take a step back for a second, and when we say pain reprocessing therapy, what exactly do you mean
Yeah.
for people that are new to it?
It's kind of in the phrase itself, right? If you think about it, it's a modality of therapy that's aimed at reprocessing pain. So basically, changing the way in which we respond to our pain, learning about where pain comes from, building our own evidence that supports that our symptoms may actually be coming from this overprotective nervous system that we have, understanding the evidence that applies this perspective of neuroplastic pain and the way in which we can apply that to ourselves. Utilizing techniques. The main technique within pain reprocessing therapy is somatic tracking, right? It's a mindfulness based technique to approach sensations with a little bit more curiosity than we might be used to using when it comes to our pain symptoms. And then basically just reinforcing all of that over and over and over again. The information, the evidence, the mindfulness based work through somatic tracking, leaning towards more positive sensations and emotions, and knowing that this pain is not the whole story of what is going on, and just doing this on repeat over and over and over again to even like make it more succinct for our brains that want to go, well, but what about this? But this feels unique and different. But what about this over here? And we go, no, it's the same thing under the same umbrella. We can just have the same conversation for something else that comes up. It's just about changing the way in which we respond.
That last part is so, 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 so important. I think I talk about it a lot. It comes up all the time. because we need so much repetition, because if we've been in the same patterns, our brains, our nervous systems, our bodies have been in the same patterns over and over and over again, where it is hypervigilant to external stimuli, which is what we're going to kind of talk about. And it's been doing that for however many years. Some people it's 1 year, some people it's 20 years, 30 years, however long. It takes time to rewire that, reprocess, right? The idea of pain, or the response to pain. And I find especially often people are like, well, I'm having this new issue now, or well, I'm having this new issue now, right? And it's I get it. It's in the beginning, it's hard to realize, really? Is this also this pain, this sensation, this headache, this thing in my back, or whatever it is, this gut issue, this is also something that's pain, right, oriented? It's like, we have to wrap our minds around this idea, and it takes time. It takes time.
It really does. It really does. And I think something that is like important to acknowledge too is that when we say pain, when you and I say pain, we're not just talking about like back pain, right? We're talking about symptoms in general. If I had it my way, I would totally call it symptom reprocessing therapy, because I know that pain doesn't necessarily apply to like the hives that I would experience. It's just uncomfortable and embarrassing, and like you can see it and it's just everywhere, right? Or pain doesn't apply to the experience of vertigo. It's just really dysregulating and really like unsettling to feel really dizzy, right? And so the same thing with IBS, not always painful, just an uncomfortable thing that's happening, whether it's pain or whether it's just a symptom or a sensation, whether it's sensory based or whether it's something that feels a little bit more nuanced. Like the word pain is such an umbrella term, and there's so many things that go underneath it, because you don't have one part of your brain that covers back pain and then one part of your brain that covers vertigo or covers IBS or covers a burning sensation in the bottom of your feet, right? It all comes from the same part of your brain. That's why the treatment is the same.
You mentioned earlier, you mentioned the phrase extinction bursts. Maybe you have a few extinction bursts now, but you do categorize yourself as recovered, or say that you're recovered, right? What exactly does that mean? I think that's important to note, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So extinction bursts are a burst of the behavior that we're trying to extinct. Right? We're trying to extinct this pain, reduce it, greatly reduce it, and eradicate it, right? And with that, that means that we're going to have a little surge every now and then where our nervous system freaks out. And when your nervous system freaks out, unfortunately, it can't like talk to you. Your nervous system is like a baby or a dog. It shows you when something is wrong, and you're just playing a guessing game basically to try to understand how to soothe it. So this is the hard thing about when your nervous system freaks out or gets really overstimulated or dysregulated, or something happens, especially when you've been feeling well for a long time. It's a burst of the behavior, this old neural pathway that we're not walking down as often anymore as habits or as a way of responding to life. And we're doing new things. And it's like every now and then the nervous system, your overprotective parent, checks in on you just to make sure you're okay. And so an extinction burst is that exact thing, a burst of the behavior, a burst of the sensation or the pain that you're trying to extinct. It can really trip you up. It can make you feel like you're falling backwards or you're back at square one. This is such a non-linear process. It's not straight up and down. It's up and down and around and all over the place. So I always say that when you're having an extinction burst, it's not necessarily that you've slid backwards. That would mean that you'd have to forget every single bit of information that you've learned and like not be able to remember it at all and just not have any of that knowledge, and like your brain was wiped clean since you started doing this work. That's not it. It's just a dip in the progress forward, right? It's just a dip, and we hang out in that dip until our nervous system feels more regulated again, right? But it's a part of the process. It's all about learning how we respond and responding differently. I will tell you, the last time that I had an extinction burst, I actually posted a video about it because it was so significant. It was a really bad migraine, but I had it for maybe a night. It started at like 9 p.m. and it was up and through like 1 a.m. And then I woke up the next day with like a 0.5 out of 10 when the previous day was absolutely a 10 out of 10. And for me, usually I would cancel plans and my week. I would completely shut down and worry that, oh my gosh, my symptoms are coming back. It would usually last up to 5 days. It lasted the evening. I felt pretty great the next day, given how I was feeling. I could kind of understand why it came up because of some things that I was dealing with. And I didn't once think that this meant my symptoms were coming back or canceling plans or anything like that. I just kind of just, I don't know, just shut down. And I was like, oh, I feel like crap. And just kind of met myself where I was at. But not a single fear thought came up. So that's how I know this work
Mhm.
has worked for me. I wasn't afraid of how I was feeling. I just worked with my nervous system instead of against it. And not a single thought came up of this being like symptom related.
Yeah. Yeah, and or if at least for me when I've had those times, and actually I just recorded a podcast about mine that happened last month because it was really significant too.
Mm-hmm.
And letting it be what it is instead of trying to make meaning out of it, right? Is kind of what I'm hearing you say. The fear, for me, the fear popped up a little bit just because of where I was and everything. But I knew that it wasn't just going to be forever or last or anything like that, right? I knew
Mm-hmm.
that it would move through and move on. And that's really important because if we get really freaked out and anxious about it and fearful about what's happening in our bodies, then it creates more of those symptoms to protect us from the actual fear, which is what we talk about a lot. So I think I wanted to talk about that because there there's a lot of questions from people, at least in my community and in my group, the Mind Body Healing Method, around, is true recovery really possible? Can I truly not have any symptoms anymore? And sometimes with that, we end up putting pressure on ourselves to make some kind of full recovery, right? Which isn't super helpful. But also at the same time, we're human and nothing's ever perfect. And we go through life and stressors come up. And like you said, our nervous system protects us again. So I think it's helpful to be realistic. And yeah, maybe that pops up sometimes, but it doesn't drive our life or, yeah, I mean, drive our life, which I'm sure it sounds like for you, definitely for me too. It did at one point in time, multiple
Yeah.
points in time, actually. Yeah.
You know, I always make the crass joke of like, who are we to think that we're never going to be uncomfortable again? Right? Like, and okay, why do you get uncomfortable this way? Like, why do I get migraines and why do you get your symptoms? And why? I have no idea. I have no idea why this is our thing. We can get all philosophical about it and be like, oh, I'm like a very like anxious thinker. So like maybe I get migraines because my brain is like going a million miles a minute, or like maybe because I learned them because my grandmother had migraines as well. Like I have the reality is I have no idea. Like I don't know why we get the symptoms that we do, but the question of like, are we going to ever fully recover is so interesting, because if you really break it down, it like actually doesn't make sense, because we're going to feel something because of some reason at some point. It's just a matter of, can I get myself to work through these fears, these protective parts that I have, right? Can I work through these fears to understand that just because I feel something, it doesn't mean all of the things that I think it means. Like, we are human and we're going to get sick and we're going to get hurt and we're going to grieve and we're going to get really stressed out and we're going to feel unheard by a certain person in our life, and we're going to have a really bad day or 70 bad days. Like, we're going to have so many things happen, and it's just about how we ride those waves. We are going to feel uncomfortable again. You're never going to not ever be uncomfortable, but you're going to have a new way of responding that hopefully reminds you that this uncomfortable moment doesn't mean what you think it means. That's just your brain's coding, right? That's just your brain perceiving things based on how your brain is wired to perceive them.
Yeah. I think it was, I believe I first heard Charlie Merrill talk about the fact that it's a human response. We, like, everyone has some sort of physical response to stress and emotions. Some of us a little more chronically, a little more intense than
Mm-hmm.
others, but we are not immune to it. And that's part of part of life. We're going to be uncomfortable. Pain's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah.
It's true. It's always a tough pill to swallow, because I think that, like, especially when you have been in a chronic state of discomfort, it's it's really hard. Like, you don't want to swallow that pill. You don't want to, metaphorically, you don't want to say like, well, this could come up again, but I'm changing the way in which I respond. You're like, well, why am I investing all of my time into something that is telling me that I'm going to feel uncomfortable again, right? Because we've tried everything else and nothing's worked. So obviously the way that we're doing things is not working. We have to do things differently. We have to have a different perspective. We have to learn a different response and consistently choose that different response. It's really difficult, but we again, a crass direct response that I will even say to my clients sometimes is everything that you've done so far hasn't worked. So might as well do something different.
And there's some trust in that. There's a leap of faith in a way, or some risks that, we have to get ourselves to. It takes a lot of courage.
A lot. I mean, I've never met, I don't know if you have, I've never met anyone where this has been their first stop. No, one time we had somebody long time ago at the pain
Yeah.
psychology center, and we were all in group, and we were like, I don't know what to, should we tell them to go to the doctor? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, because even we weren't used to that. We were like, huh? Like, why are they coming here first? And it's like, they don't want to go to do anything else. That I don't know what to do. It's so interesting because we're so used to like, somebody having seen, 20 something plus like providers to get here. It is so interesting. We're like, oh, we want to be like the first way in which people treat things. But then once they do that, you're like, I don't know. Are you sure? Maybe we need to get some imaging done. And like, it's just like, it was such a funny thing. I will never forget that moment where we're all like, I don't know what to do.
That is funny. I have not had that experience. I've only had like my brother has dealt with long COVID recently. And so the first couple months, like it took a couple months, I would say, which is so much shorter than anyone. Right. But that's because he has me as a sister. And I was like, hey, he dismissed me for a little bit, went down all the other roads and eventually listened and like leaned in. And so I think that's one of the shortest amount of times, but not the first thing. Yeah.
Totally. I always joke that my family thinks the work that we do is so cool and interesting, but it doesn't apply to them. You know,
Yes.
I love it. It's so interesting when you're on this side of things I feel like when we have this key to unlock this door, and it's scary how hard it is to like go in through that door frame. It's scary to go in through that door frame. It's really hard to go in, right? And especially when somebody knows you and knows the work that you do. It's interesting. It creates an extra barrier, I think, sometimes. And it just takes somebody else sometimes having the conversation with them or them mulling it over, like you're saying.
Yeah. It does because it's foreign until you can really grab onto it and you need it. Again, it ends up being the last end, the last desperate place of
Totally.
fine, I guess I'll try this. Yeah. Okay, so I want to switch over a little bit to what we came in here to talk about is predictive coding and what exactly that means. You actually kind of mentioned it a little bit ago. First and foremost, can you describe what exactly predictive coding is with our brain and our symptoms and why are we talking about it?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite topics. It's kind of a nerding out topic. So, predictive coding is basically this. Our intuition is that we walk through the world passively, that we just perceive things as it really is. But increasingly, neuroscience has proven to us that's not how our brains work. Rather, much of our perceptions are the result of predictions that our brains make about the world around us based on past experiences, emotions, and beliefs. So, as a result of that, we don't perceive the world around us as it really is. We perceive the world around us as our brains predict it to be. So, we don't actually see with our eyes, we see with our brain. Your eyes are just funnels so that your brain can compute what it's picking up on. Your eyes are like little binoculars, and your brain is actually doing the work and sending the signal to you, right? To your awareness of like, that's what you're looking at. Right. And so the story that I have behind this, first of all, I don't know if you have heard Olivia tell this story, but Olivia talks about walking on a hiking trail. Olivia lives in Juneau, Alaska, and I'll tell it lightly because she's much better at telling her own story than I am. But the reason that I like her story so much is because even though I'm sure I could come up with something at one point in time that was a predictive coding thing for me, I always used Olivia's for a long time. And I told her, I wish I had my own story that was like this powerful. And then mine literally happened later that day. So Olivia's story is this, that she was walking on a trail. She lives in Alaska. It was the end of the day and the night is coming up behind her. And on the right on this trail, she sees signage for a possible avalanche, like walk steady and slow, be careful. And then on her left is steep, snowy, like dense mess that she couldn't walk through. So night's coming in behind her. She's got avalanche threat on the right, steep, dense, snowy mess on the left, and she's walking ahead. And then all of a sudden, she sees this wolf up ahead on the trail, and she stops and she's like, oh my God, there's a wolf. She's like, what do I do? Oh my God. And she's like taking a moment to kind of try to think through where she goes and what she does. And what was, I'm sure, like 30 seconds, but probably felt like a lifetime. Then she sees a person come up from the other side of the wolf. And then she sees a leash in the hand. And then she realizes, oh, that's not a wolf. That's somebody's dog. Wow. Right. And I was telling Olivia again, like, I wish I had my own example, but it came up all of a sudden. I was actually talking about predictive coding with a client and it happened. So the morning of this moment that I had, I was meeting with my admin assistant and she was asking me, oh my gosh, did you feel the earthquakes last night? And I hate earthquakes so much. It's the one thing in the world that will literally send me into like immediate tears, other than seeing like, I don't know, a video of like a sad animal video or something. It's the one thing that as soon as I feel like it's happening, my eyes just tear up. It happens within a millisecond. And we were totally okay. Yes, sure, it was scary, but like we were totally okay. I was in a really bad one when I was 12. Like all the windows in our house totally blew out because the side of my grandparents' house was on like stilts. And so that side of the house like totally got jacked up. And my sister like ran through the kitchen and ran over like a broken piece of ceramic from a mug, and it went like straight through her foot. And like, so so it was filled with like hospital and like chaos and like chaotic home, and everybody's like yelling in the house. And it was just like really, I think it was like a 5.7 or something. I can't remember. It's pretty big. And so I hate them so much to my core. And so my Cindy, my admin assistant, was like, yeah, did you feel them last night? She's like, there's like 3 of them, and it felt like somebody was shaking me awake. And I was like, oh, I hate it so much. And then we're joking about how it's good here in California. Technically, you want those little pressure releases because it lets you know the tectonic plates are moving and rather than building up. And but still, and I don't like the conversation. I don't like earthquakes, but I'm not carrying it. I'm not like terrified now. I'm not feeling symptomatic. I'm not nothing. I was just, kind of like being extra dramatic just cause and just being like, oh my God, I hate this so much. And anyways, let's go into a work conversation, and we moved on. And then I'm in a session later in the day, and I'm in this session and I have headphones on, so I can't hear what's going on around me. And all of a sudden my monitor starts shaking. And then the light above my monitor starts shaking, and my whole desk is shaking back and forth. And let me tell you, the speed at which my heart moved to my butt, and like my hands got clammy, and my client isn't looking at me. They're looking down, talking about their own predictive coding stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to hang up on this person because I can't do this. Like, this is too much. And I'm kind of freaking out. And then again, probably 30 seconds or less, I suddenly realized I had put in a load of laundry before session. And my laundry room is on the other side of my office wall. And my home is raised, so there's a crawl space under my home. And when the washing machine goes on the spin cycle, it shakes everything. And so I was like,
Oh, this is good.
And then, of course, when my client stops talking, I was like, so as you were talking, and I told them what happened. It like took a while for my hands to like not be sweaty. It was so uncomfortably hilarious. I texted Olivia like, "Oh my God, I have my example." It was really hilarious. And so basically, like what this all tells us, right, is that with Olivia's sense of sight, right, she can, if she was with somebody, she would have been able to tap them and be like, "Hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Is that really a wolf over there?" right? These felt sensations in the body are especially prone to these kinds of predictive mistakes. If I didn't have my headphones in, maybe I would be able to correct that felt sensation. One time my husband was in his office and had his headphones on, and I was walking around the house, and he takes his headphone out and goes, "Do you feel that?" And I was like, "It's the washing machine. It's on the spin cycle." And he's like, "Oh, okay. I thought it was an earthquake." So it wasn't just me, like it's a thing, right? But in that moment, in this virtual session with my headphones on and the sensation in my body, there's no way to double check my perception with another person. Your perception is all that you've got. And as a result of that, misperceptions in the realm of sensations are especially durable, and they have a way of going on and on and on and on, right? These especially durable misperceptions of sensation are also known as neuroplastic pain. We can retrain our brains to switch from predictive mode into a more passively receptive mode to feel things as they really are. But this is where a lot of people get stuck, is in their brain's predictive coding, right? I had the same client that I was having my moment with. He's in IT. And when I was telling, about what just happened, this client shared something with me. If anybody is in coding or IT work, they shared the phrase pull request. And a pull request basically is to pull new coding into your existing coding, to make a new code, right? And I was like, "Oh, that is what we're doing." And this client
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Yeah, I'm basically doing a pull request. I'm pulling a new code into my existing code." I'm like, I love that so much. So
Mm-hmm.
we are doing a pull request with PRT, right? But our brains all have predictive coding. Mine was not pain related, and neither was Olivia's, probably. I would imagine not. It's just a human thing. So imagine what we do with pain and our fears and all the things that we build of what we can and can't do, and what we have to protect ourselves from, and what's going to make it worse and what's going to make it better, and just and everything that you're told, and it just creates this whole world of codes that are literally wired to predict what you're trying to get away from. So in a sense, when we stay in this cycle of this is the confines in which I have to live my life, it kind of ends up reinforcing it.
Yeah. I see that a lot with people in terms of food and movement.
Yeah.
Always fearful of what they're ingesting and taking into their body is going to affect them. Anything, food, liquid, supplements, whatever. And any kind of movement, if they have, and not just physical pain, but I mean, anything, right? Bladder, pelvic issues or sensations. I get it. There's a lot out in the world of what you should and shouldn't do with your body to not, or to cause pain or sensations or whatever it is. So there's a lot of repetition of what can become the predictive coding outside of us. So rewiring, it takes, like kind of we were saying, more education, repetition over and over and over again. The understanding that it's probably not going to go perfectly, because that is our automatic response. But there's countless stories over and over again of people doing that. Yeah. Can you give an example of how that shows up with someone in some sort of pain or, neuroplastic symptom?
Mm-hmm. Or can. So I'm going to use the same client, actually, the one who gave me the pull request
I love that.
example.
Yeah.
They were experiencing debilitating neck pain for a very long time, and did the usual process of trying all the things that didn't work to no avail, to just feel worse, to feel worsening symptoms, more depressed. They were definitely, there's two kinds of arousal in terms of anxiety or depression. There's hypo arousal, hypo, depressed, down, stuck, hyper arousal, anxious, right? And there are symptoms of hyper arousal and hypo arousal that whichever one you're in, I'm experiencing anxiety about my pain, or I'm experiencing depression about my pain. We can certainly experience both, but this person was clearly in a constant state of hypo arousal because of their symptoms. And the neck pain was just, took such a toll on their work life and personal life, and just put a stop to so many things. There's a big story behind their neck pain too that reinforces this fear of I don't ever want to feel that again, because it could lead to worst case scenario, because for them, one point in time, it did. And so a lot of our work was getting out of that trench, digging ourselves out of that trench over time with evidence and education and reminders and grounding, and just working at it and working at it. And eventually, when they got to a place that felt really good, right, we encouraged, now it's time to really start living your life, get back to work, get back into personal life, get back into your hobbies, right? All these things that is like returning to life. And the more evidence that they got that they could, the more that they felt like, wow, like I am in my life again. This is amazing. But the moment that there's any perception of a neck sensation coming back, they had recently went on a family outing and were doing something kind of strenuous, going down a water slide. Anybody with neck or back pain would never go down a water slide for fear of what it's going to do to your body, right? But such a big thing that this person would do that, given like the long journey. But they've had so much time since the really tough symptoms that I think time was also a factor too. Just time heals, and time allows us to gain perspective, and that life can move forward. And so they were like, what the heck, I'm going to go on this water slide, right? And they went on the water slide. This person is very tall. So when they went down on like a really steep part of the water slide, and then it yanked them back up to go like higher on the other side, their top of their body bent over the back of the inner tube, and they whacked their head on the base of the water slide. And so then we're in session, and they're describing this to me. And I almost got caught in it too, to be honest. They were saying,
Yeah.
I had this happen, and like I'm thinking that like maybe I injured my neck, and I was like, ooh, maybe like that sounds like that hurts. And then I went, wait, hold on. Our bodies are not that fragile. Our bodies are not that fragile. Like we are not as fragile as we fear we are. And I went, actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna push back on that, because what do you notice, right? And they were telling me all of their typical pain symptoms, right? Not anything new, right? Not anything like, we weren't concerned about a concussion. We weren't concerned, just because that wasn't being brought up. And certainly if there were ongoing, head pain symptoms, or just something, it's our job to be like, I think you should go get that checked out, right? But as soon as I realized that they were kind of like regurgitating some of the narratives around their old symptoms, it's like, oh, wait. I said, is there any chance that this is your brain's predictive coding? Right? And I explained predictive coding. I gave the fun examples, and was like, so you see, like sometimes we are just coded. We're wired to perceive sensations in our body because of past experiences. Your brain goes, I had neck pain for years, and it took me so long to get back to enjoying my life, that when you go do something that's an example of you enjoying your life, and you feel like it didn't go well, and now you have this symptom after, that it's a sign that you can't enjoy your life. That's your predictive coding. That's not a reflection of you not being able to enjoy your life. That is your brain's predictive coding. Right? And I kid you not, the next session, this person was like, I'm totally fine. You're right. It was entirely my predictive coding. I did the pull request. I know that this is not, I just smacked my head, and we said, and yeah, that hurts.
Yeah.
And then you have to be around kids the rest of the day that are screaming and playing, and you're like, oh my God, get me out of here. It's like, of course, all that is so understandable, but it does not mean your symptoms are coming back, and that you can never go to a water park again, and that you can never get on a water slide again. It doesn't mean that your body can't handle it. It doesn't mean that your neck just deteriorated in that exact moment, and that you're going to go back to how life was before. It doesn't. That's your brain's predictive coding, right? And again, that person with their felt sensation in their body, they're the only ones that can perceive it that way in that moment. And the more that they're checking and rolling their neck and touching, and oh my gosh, it's so sore, the felt sensation with their perspective based on their past experiences is just going, oh, this is bad. And then they come here and we talk about it, and I'm like, I'm bulldozing that wall down. You are not building that wall here.
Yeah, it's frightening. I mean, that is frightening. That'd be scary.
It is. Who wants to do that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, that sounded awful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've actually had a couple of those experiences, especially in my early years of symptoms, or awareness of my symptoms, was a lot of chronic pain all over my
Yeah.
body. And I've since then had a couple like I've fallen off my bike, or I was doing I like to play around with movement, and I like I fell pretty high off of a ladder and like landed on my hip, and those hurt, right? I had huge bruises.
Yeah.
But I remember reflecting back thinking that was just that day
Yeah.
that it hurt. It didn't continue. Whereas before, oh my gosh, I would have gone into so much fear and thinking I needed to go and get adjusted all the time. And I just totally messed up my body. And then I would have had the fear, or not the fear, but I would have felt like a failure. Like, how did I do this again to me? And I'm so fragile and I'm so weak.
Yeah. Totally.
And I never had that in, recent times.
You know what? I may have shared this example with you before, but some time ago, my husband and I were in a motorcycle accident. We were hit by a car and we flipped and flew like 40 feet into oncoming traffic and got up with he had a bunch of broken bones and my shoulder was dislocated and I had a broken wrist. And just like, what's so funny is this is such a weird thing to say. Loved actively in the moment, knowing that my greatest fear of getting into an accident happened and that I could get up and walk away. I was almost in like PRT brain the whole time. I'm like, this is amazing. I don't feel any of my my symptoms. And that's so I can get up and walk away. Wow, I just like lived through my fear and and I was like cracking up at myself even in our recovery process cuz this was understandably it's one of my greatest fears, like what's going to happen if we get hit by a car and like are we going to be okay? And we weren't all okay, but we were okay, right? It wasn't all right, but we were all right, right? So I learned that like, whoa, we can get hurt. Like you can get hurt and it means nothing other than ouch, I just got hurt and I'm going to be down for the count for a little bit. And maybe next time I like do things a little differently. But honestly, for us, I was like, we do nothing differently because it wasn't our fault. There was nothing I could have done to prevent that. So I'm going to do it again because it's a hobby and I enjoy it. And you probably love messing with movement and like doing new things. And so we remember like bodies get hurt, but bodies heal. And it's not all right in that moment, but we'll be all right and we will figure it out. And it doesn't mean symptoms. And we can, in those moments, like change our brain's predictive coding, right? To know like, this was just a moment and we're going to take a pause and we'll come back, right? But it doesn't mean all the past experiences that our brain is saying that it means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And when that happens, or when we can get to that point, there becomes a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Right? So much
It really
freedom in your
does.
life to just live
It does.
and not worry so much and hyperfixate on what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, how your body's going to respond, or what you need to do to control it or control the environment. That takes a lot of energy.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Is there anything else around predictive coding that you feel like is important to note here?
I really think that it's important to remember that your brain isn't engaging in its predictive coding because your wiring is wrong, right? It's not that there's like some jacked up like virus filled code in your brain that needs to be worked through or else. It's not an example that you're malfunctioning. It's an example that you're working too well, but you're using a code and wiring that doesn't serve you anymore. There are these parts of us, all of these parts that we have that have all different jobs, parts that protect us, parts that help us problem solve, parts that have us brace, right? Our reflexes that brace for the impact of something, parts that overthink and ruminate, parts that want to be perfect, parts that just don't want to deal with uncertainty, or parts that are saying that we're really fragile. There's all these protective parts that our brain is just like wired and coded to engage in because of past experiences. It's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes we need those parts and sometimes we need space from those parts. Sometimes those parts all want to be at the wheel at the same time. And sometimes we just need to ask those protective parts for some space because though it makes sense that we want to problem solve this right now because that's just how we're wired. Problem solving is a trait that serves us and has served us many, many times and will continue to serve us. But there's some areas where we're learning, like, oh, I might not need that problem solving part in this moment. I might need to ask for some space. I might need to put that part down. Right. And I might need to take the wheel to remember, like, this isn't about fixing this or avoiding that. This is about learning to respond to what I'm experiencing in a new way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And one more thing that I realized I wanted to note, what if someone says, yeah, but I do have these scans to show that there is something wrong in my body? Or, like in my case, for a long time, I was fixated on the fact that I'm hypermobile. I'm on that hypermobility EDS scale, and honestly, that was stuck. That was stuck for me for a long time. I didn't end up having a lot of association with it, but I just assumed, well, yeah, I'm gonna have sensation in my body because of that, and now I realize I don't have to. So what do you say to someone who's like, well, yeah, but I have real physical abnormalities
Yeah.
in my body?
First and foremost, the research driven part of me wants to say there's a lot of data out there that proves to us that just because we have findings in our imaging, that's not 100% indicative of why we feel the symptoms that we do. Right. So there's literal proof, right? Just out there for us to take a look at. I promise, if you Google, I always forget what this one study is called. And so anytime I just Google like asymptomatic research findings, it always populates. I forget which one it is, but it's really wonderful. It's like this study where they kind of collect data from a variety of different age groups and put them on a spreadsheet. And they list all the different abnormalities in their backs that they see according to their age group. What the likely percentage is that they are experiencing disc degeneration in somebody's 20s. I think it's something like 36 or 37%. And then it just goes up over time. Everybody in the study is asymptomatic. They don't feel these things, but they're there. And so there's literal data that shows us your image findings are not 100% indicative of why you feel what you feel. So we can say that, right? This imaging exam, this sensation is not the whole story of what is going on, right? My first client when I started here was diagnosed with RA. You would think, especially as a therapist, I'm like, this is outside of my scope. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, and I don't know if this is okay that I get somebody to respond to this differently, but it was, because the way that they experience their symptoms, which typically with RA or with many arthritic conditions is in the morning. Mornings are rough, but predictive coding, your brain says in the morning A, B, and C happens, and guess what you do? You cater to A, B, and C. You walk carefully, you walk easily, you take things slow, you don't pick up the thing that you just dropped, you feel a sensation and you stop opening the sliding door for the dogs and things like that, right? You get like caught in this kind of like habit, right? And this person eventually reached out because of that, and now they consider themselves completely pain free. They just reach out for like family stuff every now and then, even with a diagnosis like that. So image findings is not 100% the explanation. I think I've had, it's funny to say, I think I've had like 6 concussions in my life. I can't remember. That's kind of a conundrum.
Uh-huh.
But um I, I was I remember when I was told that I may be having some of my migraine symptoms because of the concussions. I knew in like my heart that it didn't totally make sense because I've had my migraine since I was 11. That was before any concussion. But I also knew that, like, oh my gosh, maybe these concussions are going to make the existing thing like 10 times worse. We can go through things and we can have things happen and we can have things show up on our imaging, and still it's not a 100% explanation for why we feel what we feel. But I understand wanting to and feeling like we need to hold on to that because, again, that protective trait that feels like we're really fragile is just trying to help us.
Yeah. And honestly, that could be a whole other episode
Yeah.
of identifying with our diagnoses or lack of diagnoses or sensations or pain and what that means, the attachment about it. So,
It really can
yes,
be.
exactly.
Yeah, fourth time's the charm.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much, Vanessa. This was
Mhm.
really helpful.
Good.
I know that this is a really important topic for people to really grasp and understand because it sneaks up on us so much. We can get it. And then, I mean, like your client example, right? Then we're like, oh wait, this is predictive coding again. I'm just assuming that I'm gonna have pain because of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I always joke, I'm like, you're going to get so annoyed with me and this work because you're going to start going, oh, that's predictive coding. Oh, that's predictive coding. Oh, oh my God, all of it. I'm like, no, I want you to get annoyed because I want you to see how annoying it is that we get stuck in our brains predictive coding. It's such a truth. It's constant, right? When we are sitting here talking, I'm not kidding you. We're sitting here talking. I'm going to be really honest right now.
Please.
I look at my dog, that's Charlie. I look at Charlie in the background, and Charlie is almost 15 years old. And as we're talking, I have this sudden thought of like, Charlie's going to die one day. And I don't know how I'm going to handle that. How is Gertie going to handle that? She's my 3-year-old golden retriever that's laying on the floor. And I was thinking, like, how's Gertie going to handle that? Maybe I'm just going to have to take Gertie everywhere with me so that she doesn't feel alone. And as I'm thinking, my hands were getting kind of sweaty, and I was like sitting up straighter than I usually would, not because to have good posture, but because I was getting uncomfortable. And then you said something, and I'm like, oh no, I wasn't paying attention for 10 seconds, probably less, honestly, because we have these thoughts so quickly. And then I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? Oh no, I'm not going to answer her question. I'm just going to ramble. I'm not going to sound good. And I hate not sounding good. And all these things. It's our brain
Mm-hmm.
like engaging in its predictive coding. My brain is going, my dog is aging, so I know that's going to happen. And I am engaging in an intrusive thought that is making me physically uncomfortable. And that physical discomfort is making me suddenly aware that I'm not listening, and then makes me start worrying about not sounding smart enough or good enough. And it happened in 10 seconds. And then I was like, what am I doing? Oh my gosh, pay it. Like just chill out. And I was like, okay, now I'm back. It's so funny, but our brains do this. Don't be afraid of it. Like, please, I tell clients all the time, like, this is normal. They'll be like, yeah, but what if I think about like when this person dies, or what if I think about what if normal? Yeah, but like what if I think about like, you know, driving my car and like what it would feel like to like just veer off for a second because I'm like, and then I feel scared, like am I experiencing something that I shouldn't be, and that's normal, right? And like just I feel like I'm constantly saying this is your brain's predictive coding. We know that bad things happen. We know that bad things have happened to us. We know that we're going to eventually lose people and things that we love. We, think it all within a span of 5 to 10 seconds, and it creates physical sensations. Don't let it trick you. Don't let your protective brain trick you into thinking that this is a sign that there is something wrong with you, right? We all do this. It's totally quote unquote normal.
The exact situation you described within those 10 seconds, I was nodding so hard because I'm like, oh yeah, it's happened to me all the time. Oh crap, I wasn't paying attention. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to sound good. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be enough. Or I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
help people enough or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Totally.
totally.
We all do it. It's so normal. And I just, if there was anything that I like really want to like
Mm-hmm.
give people as much as possible, is any thought that you have, no matter how scary or icky or uncomfortable it feels. I know it's really easy to think that it means something bad about you and the way that you are, but try not to look at it that way. It's a concept called Kierkegaard. It's from this philosopher, Soren Kierkegaard. It's like Dutch philosopher, I think. Kierkegaard means anxiety from freedom of thought. If we have context that these things can happen, or context that they could possibly be true, we're going to have this freedom of thought, and we're going to get anxious because of it, right? So if we know of people that have driven their car off the side of the road, or we know that that's happened because we saw it in the news, we know that life happens and our pets pass, or we know that we actually have lost our train of thought in a conversation before, and we've listened back to that audio and we're like, oh my God, what was I saying, right? If we know that these things happen, it just starts it like coded into your brain, right? And when we have this anxiety from freedom of thought, we like don't give ourselves room to acknowledge how human this is. It's really important to know when your brain is engaging in its predictive coding, when you are having this freedom of thought, even if the thoughts feel icky or scary, right? Ever thought about, like, cooking in the kitchen with your significant other and you're arguing and you're like, I wonder what would happen if I just like stab them? It's normal, you know? I swear, it's a weird thing to say out loud, but it's so normal, So I think I really like to bring that home so people know that these kinds of thoughts are okay, and they're particularly scary when they're about something that we're trying desperately to get out of.
Yes, they can be very scary. One, because they're not talked about enough. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Normalizing it, right? We're normalizing it. And to reduce the shame that you might feel when you have those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Okay, now it is time to wrap up. So again, thank you so much for coming on. Who knows, maybe there will be a fourth time.
I see it. I feel it. My
Yeah.
predictive coding says that it's going to happen.
Amazing. Okay. All right, Vanessa, thank you so much. We will link links below for where people can find you. I watched your story on the migraine too, on your real talk, which was interesting. And thank you for putting that out there too.
Yes.
So things like that. Anything else you want to say as we close?
No, I just appreciate you. I love doing this.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate you too.